Yeah, or just having
Now
our
we got to watch what we say.
huh?
Now we have to watch what we say.
Why?
It's because we're recording.
Oh, right. Okay.
We can't talk crap about Luke or Matt or anybody who might be listening.
I can talk crap about myself. That's fine.
So I meant Mark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually well, did I mention I did get a I cyberbullied myself apparently
How do you cyberbully yourself?
because my last name is Comages, and on the Occult Disney comment section, people were like, "How do you say this guy's last name?" So I just put like comma and then like Jizz because that actually is the correct pronunciation. But the YouTube bots apparently thought I was bullying that guy.
Because you're trying to say jizz. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. It didn't like that, so I got
Well, I was listening to an older time enough where Mark was making fun of you and saying "come guys."
right. So there's lots of ways to do it. So but I was like, that's a badge of honor, right? To get a YouTube strike for cyberbullying yourself.
Yeah. Cyberbully yourself. That's a new
I was
one.
actually listening. Do you know ever listen to Blank Check podcast?
No, which one's that?
It's a movie commentary podcast. This is deep in
Okay.
their weeds. I was in their I listen. I have their Patreon, and I was listening to their Star Trek movie episodes, right? So the producer, as a joke, keeps saying throughout the thing, I'd like to say to the audience, take one hand with your other hand and start hitting yourself. Why are you hitting it? He was just like trying to bully, all the Trekkies every 5 minutes or so. Just like, okay, put your finger in the sink. Okay, now stick it in your ear. I mean, he does like
In
these
other words,
movies.
do physically what you're doing metaphorically to yourself by bashing your favorite TV show, right?
Yeah, something like that. Okay, hold on. Let me do the prologue thing before I do the proper hello.
Oh, you
This
have it in your
one,
notes. I didn't really make notes. I think I watched it twice, but the second time was like really early in the morning before I went to bed, and but it
uh,
reminded me of the basic plot.
white. I was sticking. Probably easier on the whiteboard, I guess. I don't know.
Oh,
Here's
now
my
you made my
whiteboard.
screen go big.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's exciting. Text, text.
how do I make it go down to size again? I guess I can't.
I made a dot. There we go.
Made the mistake of moving it over here, so now I can't move it back. Oh, wait a minute. Exit full screen. There we go. There we go. All right, I can move it around. So I'd like
Mm.
to face the general direction of the camera. All right.
But yeah, this is actually the first podcast I've done like 2 weeks.
Is this the first one step beyond we're doing?
Yes.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I think I mentioned the plan to you was I got three of these. Each one has a guest. And then Jim Henson's The Cube, which is
yeah. I talked about Cube.
it's like every Twilight Zone episode at once, kind of, but on a single set.
Are you going to try to keep this Twilight Zone going for a while, or
Just those
yeah?
four, and then I'll get back to it because yeah, there is no actual reason to do it other than it seemed kind of honestly, it just seemed kind of fun to and
Yeah,
I think it's
sure.
good
It's a summer
for
break.
it's a summer break. I think it's good for like a little perspective too, like to look at another show that was kind of sort of doing the same thing around that time. Well, I guess I should explain it in the
Yeah.
show.
Well, we'll get into that, I guess. Because
Okay,
yeah, this is my first exposure to this, even though I've known of this show. I've never really dived into it till now. So
same
now
here.
I've got another obsession. I gotta go find it all on DVD if I can. It's so weird that it's not available or lost episodes like Doctor Who for crying out loud. What happened to
Yeah. Hello, welcome to Time Enough Podcast. It's where we're going beyond today, one step beyond, a little bit of a change of pace. This is Matt here. Hello, Brian.
This is Brian here. Yeah, did you
Zup.
have this show in mind when you added that and beyond tagline to the podcast? Were you thinking of
No,
one step
no, it just
beyond or
no, it just worked out really well, and I guess I should explain what I'm doing. I can talk about whatever I want to on this show. I have no affiliations, but in light of the SAG and WGA strikes, I thought, Rod Serling would probably be on the picket lines. So maybe I'll just try something a
Absolutely.
little
Yeah.
different for a month, which also I think is interesting because One Step Beyond is, as we were saying right before I hit record, or actually before I started the intro, um, like we both heard of it, but don't really know much about it. But it's a contemporary to a Twilight Zone that's kind of in that area. So I thought it'd be interesting to make the comparison. So we're going to do 3 episodes of One Step Beyond. Um, chase it with Jim Henson's Cube. God, I wanted to say the cage, the Cube, and then we'll get back to your regularly scheduled Twilight Zone. But yeah, I guess you called it out. It's like a summer break. That sounds about right. So
Yeah, it's our little summer fling. We're gonna
uh,
go off with another series for a little while.
now I did my trivia for today's episode, the Avengers, which I guess you chose because on the Films and Filth you came on for the Avengers. So we're just gonna keep avenging here.
Yeah, I think
Is
if
the
you
idea?
as we record this, that episode's probably coming out this week, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah, people, when it actually came out about 7 hours ago, I think. So,
oh,
so
okay. I haven't checked my podcast feed. All right.
yeah. So just for those fun little serendipitous moments, but yeah, One Step Beyond is a show looking at like kind of paranormal, supernatural things that are based on what are supposed to be real life events, which is a big
Yeah,
difference from
that's
the
their
zone.
gimmick. Yeah, that's their gimmick. They take anecdotes and basically urban legends, from what I understand. Again, we were saying was going into this. I've heard of the show all my life, and I've never stopped to watch it. I didn't realize it was all over YouTube, and I know there are DVD collections of it, but kind of like old Doctor Who episodes, I think there are some episodes that have maybe been lost to time. So maybe ones we can't see. I'm not sure. I need to investigate it more. I know there's a couple of books written about the series, and so I'm really kind of jazzed about it now. I'm kind of, well, I want to know more about this because it is contemporaneous or contemporary to Twilight Zone, and it's got a lot of the same sort of tropes. It's got the narrator walking on screen and telling you what's going to be happening, like Serling does. And so you almost wonder who thought of it first, when actually probably neither of them did. It was probably a goes back into 50s television, but we're less familiar with a lot of it these days. So
Yeah, when I started this podcast, I did consider getting this one, but like you said, the DVD sets are like incomplete. It's like, what kind of prints are you getting? They're very public domain, and you can watch them on YouTube for the most part. So if it exists, so yeah, this isn't a show that I think you could just do an episode by episode like I do with Twilight Zone, but it is kind of might be. We'll see if it's interesting to drop in. If you're listening and have hot takes, and send them to our X. God, is it like? Do I not get to say Twitter anymore? I don't know.
I call it Twixer, just replace the T's with X's.
Okay, I guess that works. I don't know.
Twixer,
Um,
Dixer. I don't know what you want to call it.
I was a little concerned, but it does seem that this basically lends itself to trivia in a similar way to a Twilight Zone. So I'm going to do that. Original.
It's your show. You can do whatever you want. Yes.
You start screaming. No, that's Mark's job to just start screaming. Okay. Original
I'm
air
trying
date.
not to scream because I've discovered my mic might be a little too hot for Zoom, and I've heard there's some dropouts in previous episodes. I'm trying not to be too loud. Let me know if you hear me cut out. I don't.
Go with a cool radio voice. Yeah. The original air date here was April 25th, 1961. As with all One Step Beyond episodes, this was directed by John Newland, the guy who also narrates on screen. Writing credits go to Martin Benson, Merwin Gerard, and Lawrence B. Marcus. Benson had more stock as an actor, appearing in The Omen, The King and I, and Goldfinger. Gerard was a serious writer for this show, as well as its later follow-up, The Next Step Beyond. Marcus has writing credits on films such as The Stuntman and Witness for the Prosecution. Andre Morel was our unrepentant Nazi, General Gunther Hauptmann. He also appeared in Ben-Hur as a Sextus and The Bridge on the River Kwai. Lisa Gastoni was Marianne. She appeared in films such as Wake Up and Die, Come Play with Me, and Submission. Not gonna lie, none of those ring a bell with me, but it is one of those like fun title listing sequences somehow. Sounds a little saucy. I don't know. The priest was Stanley Van Beers. He passed away right after this episode was aired, but he did ring a bell with me as he appeared on Patrick McGowan's Danger Man, which is the precursor to The Prisoner, which I did an entire podcast on.
Well, let's see. When this episode aired, 61. Was Danger Man already on the air in 61? I didn't realize it went back quite that far.
Danger Man, I think the first series was quite early on, and the fourth series is like 5 years later, so there's a big gap where they don't make Danger Man. But yeah, they made them in 1960, 61. Then I think they don't make any more till like 64, 65, something like that. So yeah.
That's unusual. Wow. Okay. So that's what you call a
British
hiatus.
TV? For British TV? It's not so, I don't know if it's unusual for British TV.
Okay. Well, yeah. I can think of a lot of shows where like Red Dwarf. Okay, we'll make one now, and 5 years from now, we'll make another one. Okay,
yeah. The two Fawlty Towers series are quite removed from each other, and it sounds like they're going to have a third, even more removed. I don't know what the word is on that, but I feel like it was a while ago. I heard they're going to do more Fawlty Towers, but I haven't seen it yet.
So hey, John Newland, he's kind of like Serling on steroids, isn't he? Because he's doing the narration at the beginning, but he's also the director. Yes. I wasn't clear if he was a writer, and because he does not include in these writing credits. Serling's mostly behind the scenes, otherwise doing the writing, but it sounds like John's behind the camera as opposed to behind the hot typewriter.
Yeah,
to keep the show running. Very
interesting. He does seem happy. Less iconic when you see him on screen, but he does seem more comfortable to be on screen than Serling, which maybe keeps him from having an edge. I don't know. I mean, at least a memorable edge. I mean, he's fine, but
well, he doesn't have the dry teeth.
Yeah, he's got properly moistured teeth. So I'm not going to tell you need to do impression of him because I wouldn't know what that is anyway. But if you would like to read the prologue in any way you'd like, go for it.
Oh, this is you. I don't get to do my bad Serling impression. I'm gonna try to do
if you wanted
my bad Newland impression. Let's see. The Chateau de la Mare, 78 kilometers southwest of Paris. In stay, part of the glory of the French aristocracy. Now it's a haunted house, or at least so it is said. These were next to the last tenants, the Marquis de la Mare, his marquise, and their daughter, whom they call Fleur. Next to the last tenants, because the chateau was occupied briefly in 1943, occupied, according to one report, by both the living and the dead.
All right, you even made it through my typo. Very nice. Unlike the Twilight Zone, I actually had to like play the episode and dictate to get the prologue because they're not just on Wiki.
They're not published anywhere, right?
Yeah. So I have to transcribe it myself.
I don't know if I sounded at all like John Newland. I'll try to do better next time. There probably won't be a next time because they're only going to be doing 3 of these.
Hey, I might come back and pop in another 1 or 2 if people like it. So if people do want to, hear about One Step Beyond a bit more, get back to me again. So I'm always interested about that sort of thing. But yeah, we basically have like a creepy a World War II kind of haunted house thing, with Nazis who deserve anything horrible that's happening, I guess.
And there's no sign of Iron Man or Thor or any of those people. It's called the Avengers.
I know.
Or Mrs. Peel or Mr. Steed. So I was
about to say you don't even get a Steed here. So you just get creepy Nazi dudes. I definitely I don't remember the name, but they did choose the super Disneyland looking castle to be the establishing shot for this. I thought that was fun.
Who knows what castle that is? Someone could probably identify it. I'm sure there are castle nerds out there.
Yeah, and because there is the one that I guess it's the Disney World, the Sleeping Beauty castle resembles. I know that one, but this is more like the L.A. Disneyland, Cinderella's castle.
Would you think it was a French castle or a German castle? I don't know.
I assume it was a French castle, which is why it would be the more Cinderella thing, but a very fantastic site for this place, where they're having one of those war parties, I guess. Well, actually, a war party sounds very different, but
Yeah, well, that's the again the plot of the story. It's like he's going to have a party. So what's it? There's a German general. He has a French girlfriend he picked up recently, apparently, and they're hanging out in this French castle, and he wants to have a party based on the previous tenants from 150 years ago.
yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Which well, I don't know. Sometimes you hear about the occult side of the Germans, Hess, all that sort of stuff. So there might have been some kind of this is like what based on a real world event. So I'm going to sit here and think of the actual motivations of people to do this, right? It's kind of like a
Right.
stranger, like we're going to recreate the last party from 150 years ago. Like if that was purely fictional, yeah, that doesn't really hold together very well. So that's where the show is like, okay, it's supposed to be
Fact
based.
is stranger than fiction. Yeah, the writer have to justify it, but if this is an anecdote or a story from World War II, you have to like just okay, this is that happened.
I was just wondering what the deal killer was, since he's like, we have to recreate everything, including the music. I'm like, what if they played the Beach Boys album "Summer in Paradise" at that last party? You know, now you're stuck with that.
Well, yeah, the music's the first weird thing that happens. In that he hires some musicians, but then he hears music coming from elsewhere in the house, and he storms into this room and pulls aside a divider, and there's nothing there. At first, I thought maybe there was a phonograph or something explaining why there was sound, but there was just simply nothing there. So that was the first creepy thing that happened. Maybe the second, because I think there was the girl laughing, the daughter of the Marquis from in the past. You hear laughter briefly. I think only the French girlfriend heard it. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Oh, the creepiest thing is we left out like I think we just buried the headline of this party where he's going to bring in
Oh
a
yeah.
bunch of he's going to bring in like a bunch of people from like the camps or something, and then like surprise, I'm sending you to the gas chambers or something is the
I think he's sending them to the camps. I think there were people
oh
who
right people like
earmarked to go to the camps, but he was going to give them a big party, send them off, which is pretty twisted. I mean, let's get down to the basics here. This German general is really twisted.
no, I wrote in my notes, I guess he wants to pull a reverse Schindler,
Yeah, really. I don't. So you have to kind of pick up on all this. You only have like less than 30 minutes to try to get all these pieces together, and there's a lot of exposition really going on. But yeah, it's a weird setup for a ghost story. But then essentially we start getting ghost story things. We get voices, we get music, and what there wasn't too much more. What was
well, it's not a well-attended party. He invites 50 people that he's going to send to the camps, but one shows up. When that happens, you should probably assume that person's the Wolverine or something. But you know,
yeah, the actor who didn't live long beyond this, he did look familiar to me, and I was trying to place him, but I don't think I've ever seen him before. Really, he has a certain I don't know. He looked a little Rasputin-y to me. He put a beard on him. He could have been Rasputin, but he was just a local priest, apparently.
yeah, maybe that's why I was thinking of the Wolverine. But yeah, he gets there, and just for a minute, like when they're getting ready to have dinner, because I guess they're going to do it anyway. Like it kind of felt like the Rocky Horror dinner setup. Just this is a very gothic episode, right? So,
Right.
I mean, I doubt that movie was like referencing this specifically, but it really did feel similar. So I thought that was interesting. Let's see, I got
So
it.
we do get an explanation though as to why those people didn't show up, right?
Right.
Because the girlfriend basically ratted out the general's plans.
As is the correct thing to do.
Yeah. It's like, no, she's not just a plaything for him. She has a mind of her own. She realizes that he's, evil, and
A
he needs to be
Nazi.
thwarted, and then she pays the price for it, unfortunately.
I mean, you were saying where's Thor, where's Iron Man, but we really need Indiana Jones to punch him. I mean, that's more of the vibe of this episode, I think. I mean, 1961, you're calling it the Avengers. You don't even have the British show yet, I think. So Like,
No, I think it was before the show. Yeah. So,
yeah, I mean, this
well,
is
the
this is
Avengers are, I assume, the ghosts of the peasants from 150 years ago who decide to basically storm the castle, and we see him shooting at a door. We hear a crowd outside, but the door opens. There's no one there. But then suddenly he falls back like he's being attacked, but we don't see anything. And then John Newland wraps it up by saying that he died of a heart attack, but every bone in his body was broken. Dun, dun, dun. So
that's one hell of a
I
heart
was
attack,
thinking,
isn't
yeah,
it?
well, I'm wondering, even if they're like, if the bones are broken, but there's no like physical damage. I mean, to break bones, you have to break flesh too. So if he was in bed, like without a bruise on him, and somehow his bones are all broken, that's pretty creepy.
Yeah, yeah, maybe like the unseen ghost mob, like that's the only, they can't touch flesh, only bone. I don't know.
Well, maybe I don't know, maybe we're taking this anecdote as a ghost story, but it might be that the actual modern day villagers broke in and killed him, and somehow made it look like a heart attack, but like I said, he would be pummeled if his bones are actually broken. So who knows what really happened.
I guess that's one interesting thing when we talk about zone episodes. Rod is with this kind of person. Rod is like a despicable man, one who's been mired in the horrors of war, right? So he's just
Yeah,
the
he'd give you this
prologue
whole
throws
prologue.
out
Yeah,
that
yeah,
this guy's horrible, right? I'm looking at the prologue for this again, and it's very plainly stated. It's more journalistic, just like here is the setup. It doesn't have as much, I guess, emotional butter as a Twilight Zone prologue has.
yeah. It's not full of lots of adjectives like Rod likes to write. This piece of metal, this pugnacious, whatever.
Right, right. So it is I guess, again, being like supposedly real events, it's a little more journal. I'm not saying it's journalistic, but that's like the tone, right? That we're being a little more like fair and balanced, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, let's give the German evil general a chance to,
Well,
make his
it
case.
doesn't say anything either way. It's just like he's
Right,
here, he's
right, right.
doing this, right? Without any commentary, which I don't know, that's an interesting, like very small stylistic change, but does change the flavor. Because what I thought of more than say Twilight Zone, the 25-minute format, of course, makes it feel like a Twilight Zone. But
Right.
um I was thinking of 60s films like The Haunting or Haunting of Hill House or what's is Don't Look Back, the Sutherland one. Yeah, like kind of 60s horror, like the brainier horror, right?
Hmm.
I don't know if you've seen the original Haunting or anything, which is a very good movie, by the way.
Um, I'm not like a huge horror fan, so in the sense that a lot of these one step beyonds probably are in a horror format, as opposed to Twilight Zone, where you can go off into sci-fi and in other speculative realms. It's not straight up trying to scare you, it's just trying to mind trip you. This
Right.
show
I mean,
seems like it's aimed at scaring you a little bit.
yeah, it's like inherent in the title. Like, okay, this is somewhat based in reality, but can reality take the one step beyond? Whereas the Twilight Zone is we're going to go as whack as we want to because we can.
So is
Like
our question going to be, who went one step beyond?
that actually was going to be how I was going to phrase the question, but
I'm sorry, I stole your thunder.
so yeah, yeah, I'll keep that's the only one I really have to change. Let's see, I just got a few quotes. What did I write down? I like to see what quotes I get. Not just a party, a fantastic party. I like they had to make that
Hmm.
distinction. I guess that's part of Nazi megalomania, because yeah, this guy's about as Nazi as you can get, right? I mean, there's not really, they're not pulling punches here. I
But
mean,
he's
he's
like a
literally rounding up
Francophile.
people. Well,
He gets the wig and everything. He's going full 17th century. That's just weird.
well, he has to, again. That's the occult strain where he has to recreate the thing from 150 years ago, right? My finest wig for the party. See, he didn't quite do that, I guess. Then he's like fat shaming his girlfriend, like, "Oh, you don't quite fit into that dress."
Oh
Like,
yeah, that was rude.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
found you on the streets. You used to fit in that dress. I was like, screw you, dude.
I was disappointed because if someone in a TV show or movie says, "Give me your gun," aren't you supposed to immediately shoot the person who gives you the gun? He didn't do that. He waited another 5 minutes or so, you know. um, oh, he what does he threaten to sew the priest's body into the lawn? I thought that was intense.
That was a weird turn of phrase. How do you do that?
I that's
Why
why I
would you do
liked
that?
it. I mean, that made me think of like David Cronenberg or something. And the other thing that this made me think of, which is actually is a movie I haven't watched because of reputation, because I don't think I'd like it, which is Salo, which is a bunch of bored Nazis setting up in an Italian villa and basically bringing in young people and like like abusing them and torturing them. So it's not a movie that I feel like watching, but this is like kind of like the PG version of that, I guess.
Well, as much as you can get away with in 1950 television, 1960.
Yeah. I mean, that the Salo is one of the most intensely like intense movies. Like it's an art film, but it's about as exploitationy as possible at the same time. So not referencing, just recommending necessarily. I'm just kind of like thinking about it in terms of this as being a somewhat similar setup of bored Nazis in their stolen villas. Well, I guess in Salo they would have been Mussolini's fascists, but same idea, sort of.
Well, of course, when we talk about World War II in Germany, we're going to start um, referencing Twilight Zone episodes that do the same thing. I mean, you touched on Death's Head Revisited. You have a bit of a echo of that with the kind of well, not kind of, but an actual sadist person.
Oh yeah, who's going back to like take a happy walk down the old lane where he murdered lots of people and tortured them. So
In this case, it's happy thoughts about people he had nothing to do with killing 150 years ago, but it's like, oh, it's cool. Let's celebrate that. It's like, yeah, okay. And meanwhile, send some other people off to the camps while we're at it.
I was about to say this guy's like not. I wouldn't say he's any cleaner. I mean, he's basically playing a practical joke to send people to this guy, right? To the death head.
Right.
Schmidt dude. So yeah.
But we get a lot of World War II vibes throughout Twilight Zone for obvious reasons, since it was only 20 years prior. But we got what Passage on Lady Anne, and the U-boat captain and all that, and then there's episodes that we haven't gotten to yet that also cover the events of World War II. So I'm kind of wondering how many episodes of this series also touch on the horrors of the war and ghost stories associated with it outside of this one.
I would imagine a few, but for a different reason. On the Twilight Zone, I think it had a lot to do with the fact that Serling served in the Pacific, right? In this case, I would imagine that there's simply a lot of war stories that fit the bill.
Right, exactly. Well, again, based on anecdotes and anything that seems supernatural or horror, haunted house stories, that sort of thing. In Twilight Zone, they're more like come out as morality plays, right? Because there's like, here's a thing that shouldn't have happened, and this is how it should have happened, or this is the lesson to be learned.
Whereas again, this one is a little more like, I'm not calling this journalism. It wants to take on that flavor a little more, right? Like a little more objective of view, whereas the Twilight Zone is perfectly happy to be very subjective. Because I mean, it's a TV show, it's for entertainment. It can do that.
For some reason, I just flashed back to Plan 9 from Outer Space because I'm thinking of Criswell. Future events such as these will affect you in the future. And it's like, it's like the story of Plan 9 from Outer Space. It's kind of set up very well. Trying to set it up seriously, but it's not.
Yeah, I mean, this is one I would not call Plan 9 from Outer Space the worst movie ever. I like it quite well. But yeah, this obviously is a few cuts above that in basic quality level. So I mean, almost everything is, right? So
well, it has a plot.
Yeah, that helps.
And Bela Lugosi didn't die halfway through it, so
Right, right. Well, less than halfway through
they got like one afternoon's worth of footage of him doing nothing.
it.
Okay, we're gonna make a movie on that.
Did you want to make any other big observations on this one?
Um, no, I'm like I said, we're just kind of dipping our toes into this here for the first time, and I'm keen to see other episodes, hopefully ones that weren't recorded off the Sci-Fi Channel in 1996, like this one apparently was. Did you
What?
see the
Yeah, I saw it. I saw
the,
Saturn.
the, the Saturn logo, the old bug for Sci-Fi Channel? It was like,
Well,
oh gosh.
the next one I'm recording, and I guess the next one that's going to air is the Navigator, which I watched that on a very nice looking print on YouTube. So some of these you can watch in a nice. I was actually kind of disappointed that I couldn't find like such a clean one for the Avengers because the Navigator looked good.
I suspect that that one was probably ripped from a DVD.
Yeah, yeah. So
And
I was,
so I don't know if it should be on you. You say it's public domain. I don't know. Is it really public domain, this
yeah,
series?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because there's many different DVD sets with different. I think there might be a few specific episodes that maybe CBS still has the rights to, but not the entire show. So
It aired on ABC and it
oh,
came from what studio? Well, it says ABC Films, but that's kind of generic. I don't know if that they acquired it from the original. It wasn't even called One Step Beyond. It was called Alcoa Presents One Step Beyond.
correct. If you look for it on Wiki, you actually have to type that in to, or you'll get like
Mm-hmm.
the Madness album. So
One Step Beyond. Yeah, I know we're going to touch on that eventually.
well, yeah, I guess I'm going to throw my modified questions your way. Who in this episode took that step beyond?
The general got his comeuppance after being kind
Horrible.
of, yeah, being absolutely terrible and then kind of half acidly haunted. Really, he wasn't like a modern day haunting would have been a lot more severe before he got to the final moment. But we only had 25 minutes, so he was just spooked by some music and then got trampled by invisible peasants. I guess I don't know.
How about his lady? She's a little resistant to the whole idea. Obviously, she tips people off. She ends up getting shot in the back.
Yeah.
The,
Well, she didn't deserve it. She tried to help, and of course,
I guess we're
she
already on the deserve it question.
sacrificed. Oh, yeah.
I'll put a pin in that. I did want to bring up the priest, the guy who actually does show up. Um, if is he like more of like a well in the zone we'd say he's like more of the zone, right? But that kind of breaks down here because it is supposed to be based on an actual event. But does the priest just have giant balls? I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, he came in lieu of the actual guests. I guess he arranged for them to escape or something, so they wouldn't have to, excuse me, be a part of this
Maybe
terrible
a
hoax
distraction here. I don't know.
or
So
distraction. Yeah, I think, yeah, stepping up, when he knew he was probably gonna get killed by the end of the evening was pretty ballsy. So yeah, but I
well,
don't know if he's of the supernatural realm. He might have some vague connection, like maybe he's heard stories throughout his life about this um previous the previous party, the haunting as the castle, and he might believe in it to some degree as much as his faith allows, but I don't know if he was instrumental in riling up the ghosts and bringing them to the castle with him or anything.
well, hell of a party, right? The town remembers it 150 years later. So
it,
that's called
it
being a
was one hell
legend.
of a party.
That's one way to become a legend. So
And those are really the only three characters we deal with, right? Other
yeah,
than
like, well, you have lots of
incidental
ghosts, but
characters, yeah. And
never quite.
musicians who aren't really good musicians,
Yeah. So there's
conscripted musicians from the army to play his music.
they do have a fair amount of like background people, but yeah, when I was doing the trivia after the top three, I was like, well, there's just some names here. I don't even remember who these people are, having watched the episode. So I guess yeah, she doesn't deserve it. She's trying to stop people from being sent to a concentration camp. So that getting shot in the back for that kind of sucks. He's a Nazi. So on the does he deserve it question, I mean, it's like Death's Head Revisited for me. There's really no argument here unless you want
Yes, full stop. He deserves it.
to. Yeah, I doubt many people. Well,
He's
actually,
terrible from the first moment. It's like, okay.
um, I guess I want to put him on a scale of other film Nazis, though. We got Christopher Watts' character from Inglorious Bastards. We could consider. We already considered Captain Schmidt from Death's Head. Who do you think is cinema or television's worst Nazi?
That's a hell of a question. It's like, is there a worse Nazi? Well, okay,
Fictional Nazi. You can't
the
just go
one
with
at the top.
downfall.
Oh yeah, fictional Nazi.
Or at least not like super well known, because I guess Schindler was like
I always
technical.
liked Mr. Todd from Raiders. I thought he was a pretty creepy Nazi.
Although he's into a scientific expedition as opposed to doing like, you know, what they're doing back home. So
Well, he's a non-military Nazi. He's like a one that's not in a uniform, as a general or whatever. He's not
But no,
actually going out and doing things, but he's just in it because, hey, this is great. I love this whole Nazi lifestyle with the black hat and cloak, and I'm gonna
as far as being
live it to the hilt.
nefarious, as far as being
nefarious. Yeah, really, really, um, uh, behind the scenes kind of Nazi.
I'm kind of bringing it up though because I kind of feel like my answer might be the Death's Head Nazi, Commandant Schmidt or whatever. I feel like you don't get nastier that just because he revels in what he did. He loves it. Like 15 years later.
Yeah, I've seen few portray that way because most Nazi stories kind of end with the war, right? But this is like a post-war
or
one
with the
that
guy
got
having
away.
a heart attack and having all of his bones broken for some reason.
Yeah.
Great fate for this guy. So yeah. Well, I guess that's the deserving it thing. And the priest, I guess we've talked about a little bit. He kind of knows what he's getting into, but is it self-sacrificing that what he's doing? I guess. I mean, that's pretty much it. So.
Did he actually end up shooting him, or I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember what happened.
Okay, yeah, actually, he did. Once we get with our Nazi fellow going like full cray, right? We kind of lose track of everybody else.
Yeah, he goes running off, and ends up locked in that room. Yeah, so
yeah.
I kind of lost track of the priest at that point.
Maybe he just slipped away. I don't know.
Yeah, hope he lived to see another day.
or we're both forgetting something important. Let's put this on the tripometer. Of course, 0 is not trippy. 5 is extremely trippy. Where would you like to place this one?
Well, as a ghost story, I didn't feel like we really got a lot of menace from the ghosts. We got some music. We got a laughing girl who we know who she is, but there's no real discussion of her. The only reason we know her name is because Newland says it at the beginning of the episode. They don't have any discussion about the fate of the original Marquis and his family. The trippiest thing I think was his fate, where he is supposedly died of a heart attack, and we established that he did have a heart condition, so that was plausible.
Works.
But then the twist, but the twist was the broken bones, and I guess we're supposed to believe that those are been the cause of the result of the ghost. So that part was a weird twist, but since it was delivered at the end as kind of like an afterthought. I don't know. I would probably give the whole thing maybe a 2.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking. I was specifically going to say I can't go past a 2.5. With the final qualifier being that, well, these ghosts are not as creepy as the Elm Street kids as far as singing ghosts go. And I know that I'm judging it based on something that came much later, but the Elm Street kids are so creepy as far as musical ghosts go that this can't really stand up to that.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what other stories Mr. John Newland has in store for us along either these lines or other lines.
Yeah. Did you have any other final thoughts you wanted to throw out on this one, or I will tell people what's up with that, I guess.
Um, can't think of anything. Like I said, we're all kind of new to this series, so
No.
we can't even compare it to itself.
Well, next week maybe we can a little bit. So just for people listening and not necessarily looking at the notes on the podcast, next week will be the episode The Navigator. And the one after that, the name is escaping me, but it's the one with Elizabeth Montgomery in it. So whichever one that is 2 weeks from now.
You mean Elizabeth Montgomery as seen on the Twilight Zone? That
That's
Elizabeth
right.
Montgomery?
That's right. That's right.
That young raven-haired girl?
Yeah, I don't know what color hair she's going to have in the beyond. So
I don't think that was her actual color.
As for it is Time Enough Podcast. We are Time Enough Pod on X and Facebook. I don't like saying X. Okay. We're on
The
Patreon.
dying platform formerly known as Twitter.
Yes. That's good. That's what's gonna kill it. Nobody wants to call it X. Okay. It's like that's not a name, that's a letter. At least he didn't choose Z. I guess we can give him that because you could see Elon Musk doing that.
No, he chose the letter that most resembled a swastika. Yeah, I said it.
Okay. On Patreon, we're on Podcastius. We do other ones like Films and Filth, where we talk about the 100 best and bottom 100 movies as voted by IMDb users. Called Disney, we talk about all the weird and Disney films. And there's video game stuff like Luke Loves Pokemon, Hyrule Field Report about Zelda, and the Game Show where gamers game each other about games. So if you'd like to help us keep the lights on there, you'll get episodes early. People start getting just invited on the podcast at this point. So, that's what happens.
Wander
Okay.
on in, and who knows? You'll be behind this microphone next thing you know, talking about the Twilight Zone or a really bad movie, or a really good movie, or an ostensibly good movie.
Yeah, that one didn't. Okay. All right. I'm gonna plan my party, I guess. Actually, I don't think I planned a party for 20 years. I don't think I like party planning.
I just want to know, where in Euro Disney do I go for the Marquis de la Mars?
Phantom Manor. No, that's what they call it in China. I think it's just, I don't know what it is in Paris.
I've only been to one Disneyland. I got a lot to catch up on.
I wanna recreate the last party held at the Parisian Planet Hollywood. Okay, I shall end it there, I think. All right, and let me go ahead and I'll hit a stop as I go to work before too long. I guess that's what you do too, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, I have to be work at 7, but it's an hour drive, so I try to leave well before 6. Yesterday, I went smack into a traffic jam caused by apparently not one but 2 car crashes up the road, so I had to turn around and go the opposite way. It was really annoying. I was like, God. So I ended up being late, but oh well.
Commuting by train is usually nice, except when the trains stop running for weather or something. So, which happened last week.
I can kind of leverage our Bay Area train, the BART, because there's stations near my work and my home, but getting to those stations is the trick because they're not terribly close.
I live right next to one. Oh, I didn't hit the stop. There we go. Okay, traffic talk complete.